Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on cnHeat Identify and Future Features. Today we have Dan Sullivan, our Director of RF Planning. So Dan, when you're ready, you can take it from here.
Thanks, Olivia. My name is Dan Sullivan, and what I would like to do today is introduce you to the recently released feature cnHeat Identify. And we have a couple future features that we have in beta test that we'd like to discuss also. With me today is Keith Merryfield, and Keith is one of the two owners of Ionia Unlimited. And Keith is going to share throughout this presentation his experience with both Identify and some of these features that we're coming out with cnHeat. With that, I'll go to the first slide, and I'll turn it over to Keith. Hold on. There we go. Here you go, Keith.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. My name is Keith Merryfield. As Dan said, I'm the co-owner and network administrator for Ionia Unlimited. We serve Ionia, Michigan, and the surrounding areas. We got started because there were quite poor offerings in the area for service quality and internet for the forgotten. That's how we got started. We're using EPMP for distribution, and we got started with cnHeat after I heard about it at WISP America beginning of this year, and we've been really enjoying beta testing it and using that tool. Next slide here. So our service area has a lot of dense tree cover. We're spending a lot of time on failed installs due to the trees and other obstacles before we started using cnHeat. I work a full-time job outside of operating the network, and it was wasting a lot of time on all of that. So when we started using cnHeat, it let us show up, get it done, and leave. Our performance was improved for not just our deployments. We were putting the installs where they had the best signal without having to be up on the roof all day hunting for it. We were able to get more customers installed per day. It was just overall a better experience for both us and the customers.
So what I'd like to do is, after the initial experience that Keith just shared with you with our initial cnHeat offering, since then we've come out with a new feature cnHeat Identify and other features discussed later, and I want to relate what Identify is, and then Keith can share his experience with it, testing it out for us. So cnHeat Identify, simply we want to allow you to identify your customers and be able to target market them. So what Identify does is it takes a cnHeat heat map, and it allows you to find those buildings that have coverage through the heat map, and you can specify how high off of the roof of the building you'd like coverage. Many times people want a 1 foot height because they don't want to put too big of a pole on the building. And so what Identify will do is it'll find all the buildings, for example, with the 1 foot height, if that's what you choose, and that'll allow you to easily install on a customer's roof or right under the eave with like a J-mount. And so in the picture below, you'll see here on the left, this is a street of an example where cnHeat is done, and the two buildings on the left have coverage with 1 foot height. And so what cnHeat Identify does is it gives you the addresses, and then what we also do is we'll provide you the exact locations for all the buildings, both the latitude and the longitude, so that you have two different pieces of information. And with the addresses, we can do one of two things for you. If you want to self-market the addresses yourself, we'll send the addresses to you and you can market with them. Or if you don't want to have the marketing functionality within your own business and you want to outsource it, we can provide it to a leading WISP marketing firm, which is Market Broadband. So now let's go to the next slide.
So we've trialed Identify on one site so far and found it to be very accurate, not just with matching up to the heat map, but also with results from successful site surveys. So we've previously explored the use of every door direct mail to send out mailings and gather interest from potential customers. But by only sending the postcards using Identify to the customers that we can actually serve, we can save quite a bit of money on not just the materials, but also the time responding to customers that we can't actually reach. This is allowing us to connect with customers that we can serve much sooner, and it's letting us recover our costs from a new site build much quicker.
Okay, great. Thank you, Keith. Now, another feature that we have worked with Keith and Ionia Unlimited is another feature with our heat map, which we call Locate, and so we've added a feature to it called Minimum SM Height. And so I think what I'll do is let Keith share his experience on what minimum SM height is. If you could describe it, Keith, that would be great, and then what you've actually had happen with it.
Sure. So the minimum SM height tool was letting us use a kind of a variable heat map coverage where we were able to see not just if a property was covered at 1 foot or 15 foot, whatever we selected. We were able to actually see specifically what height we could reach the coverage at. In this image here, you're seeing a subdivision that in the original cnHeat, even at 15 feet, we were not able to reach any of these houses in this subdivision, and it was several of them had already contacted us looking for our service. So being able to use the minimum height tool, we were able to determine, if you click to the next slide there, we were able to determine that we could reach one of the rooftops of a second-story house there with a larger gain antenna. We had some Fresnel zone problems to reach, but we used a larger antenna. We were able to successfully reach them and do a little micro pop off of that roof to get to everybody else in that subdivision. And that was something that we would not have been able to easily figure out either with the original cnHeat features or with just a site survey up there. I wouldn't have regularly hauled that large of an antenna up onto a roof for a site survey. So that really helped us reach those customers that wanted our service, were communicating with us, but would have been very difficult to reach otherwise.
Now, this is a beta version of software that Keith and Ionia was using. And just to quickly explain what they have here is this map on the left here goes from 0 feet to 15 feet. Blue is 0 foot SM height and red is 15 foot SM height. And see these little lines that are streaking out here are the coverage from the access point. So they give an indication where view shed clearance was actually occurring. And so you can see that this is at 15 feet. And so it kind of indicated that by this house, there was the opportunity to get the coverage that Keith was talking about that he was able to see with some incursion into the Fresnel zone. If we go to the next slide here, this is another example of Animus Height, then I'll turn it over to Keith for what they found here with this.
So with this here, this is the original tool, not using that beta minimum height. These were some properties that we were not able to find in the list at 1 foot subscriber module height, but by selecting 15 feet, we were able to identify several properties here that would have coverage. I went out to a number of them and found that we were able to reach those sites and often did not need that full 15 feet, but it allowed us to set the expectations that something was going to have to be added to the customer's roof for the install. We needed to get above a tree, we needed to get above a shed, some other sort of obstacle. So it allowed us to kind of go into the install ahead of time, knowing what we needed to bring with us, knowing what we needed to advise the customer of, and it just made for a much, much smoother experience knowing that ahead of time.
So instead of knowing it was a no-go at 1 foot and a go at 15 feet, with the tool that we provided you, you were able to know that it would work at like 7 foot and then set expectations correctly and then prepare for your install correctly. Is that right?
Right, absolutely. And it allowed us to, instead of having to bring, large tripods and long masts with us, if we were able to discover that, a J-pole on the top of the roof wasn't going to work, but a gable mount with a 5-foot pole would. That lets us save on the things that we're carrying with us in the van, the things that we're having to carry with us, up to the house and onto the roof, and able to just let the customer know ahead of time what their costs are going to be.
And when you let the customers know in advance what the cost would be and what the footprint on the roof would be, as opposed to having to tell that there to them when you got there, did you notice a difference in the customer's reaction to what had happened, just in general?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when we were previously having to tell people that, we look like we can probably serve you. We don't really know what we're going to need to put on your house in order to serve you, and spending a lot of time, moving things up and down from the roof to get height, and then, dealing with people that might not want a 10-foot mast on top of their roof. They, have aesthetic requirements or things like that. Knowing that ahead of time, what we're going to need to do, lets us, as I said, set those expectations, have that discussion with the customer before we're on site with the tools ready to go. It saves us time, saves them time, just makes it a better experience.
Okay, thanks, Keith. What I want to do here now is show you what the future tool is going to look like, and we should have it out shortly, or hopefully targeting the end of November. And this is the next version of cnHeat Locate. So our heat map, we call it Locate. We want you to locate your subscribers. And now what we've added, if you see here, if you see my mouse, there's a little SM height slider that we're going to have down here. And the slider is going to go from 1 to 75 feet, okay? And what you can do is you can move your slider from 1 foot to 75 foot. So someone calls you at your home location and says, hey, can I get service here? And there's no service on the home. You can keep moving your slider up from 1, 2, 3, all the way up to the height where you start to see service for the home. So say it might be 30 feet that you start to see service, and you can relate to the people, well, we could do service to your home, but it would require in your backyard a 35-foot mount. But at least you would give the customer an option and they would know in advance. So that's what the SM height is for, is to be able to look at any property and figure out what you can install them at from either 1 foot all the way to 75 foot. And you'll get the same heat map slice that you had at 1 and 10 feet, but you'll have it at every foot. Okay. Other features that we're coming forward in the near future is for bigger customers. If you are a bigger customer and you would like to optimize your greenfield site placement, we have the back end working for this, and we can provide you near real-time greenfield site planning on a large basis. So like if you want to cover, like a large area like a county, for example, and have complete control over it, just give myself a call or contact, and I'm Daniel Sullivan at CambiumNetworks.com, and we can introduce you to the feature. And so let me explain to you what this greenfield site placement is. Say, for example, you had a requirement for CAF to cover these 34 buildings, and you needed to have 95% coverage, or something like that. So what we do is we identify the buildings in advance, and then we have two tools. One tool what we have is called a reverse search. And what the reverse search does, it lets you find coverage areas that would serve the majority of SM. So over here you can see this is 73% all the way to 100. And we can find those areas that give the highest percentage coverage. Like you wouldn't think of it, but a real good swath is down here. It's covering these SMs and all the way across, as opposed to you think you might be in your little rectangle. And just to let you know, this specific feature where you can identify good places to let your APs be located, your sites be located, we're actually going to provide that as a feature to everybody in also the end of November timeframe. Being able to provide us CSMs, we can tell you these locations. Now back to the greenfield that we can provide today, the real time that we can provide today in beta. We can also do a forward search. So here's the location that was suggested in the reverse search in near real time. So this was provided in, let's say, about a minute, all this information, right? And with the high accuracy and detail that cnHeat provides. Now we do a forward search of this location, and this also occurs very quickly, less than a minute. And you can do many, many sites at once, and it takes very little time. And then the forward search shows you the coverage of the 31 buildings. And here we can see, yes, it's getting somewhere like 80%, but you can move an SM just a little to the south here, a little to the north here, and then over here the same thing, but a couple of them might be hidden by trees, but maybe you can do a quick micro pop or relay like Keith was explaining in his example, and you can get to your 95% coverage very quickly. And so what's nice about this optimize, which we have in beta right now, is in the near real time, is you can go back and forth from reverse search to forward search, and you can do it on a large area, and it's under your control, and we can help you to make that a reality, so you can optimally place your sites at the best latitude, longitude, and height. Okay, real quickly, we have a promotion going on for cnHeat Identify that came out. If you purchase 4 450i, 450M, or EPMP 3000 APs in Q4, we'll give you a 1-year site subscription to cnHeat Locate to the site of your choice. It doesn't have to be the site where you put them up. And then we'll also give you 500 addresses, up to 500 addresses of cnHeat for that same site. And it will provide it to the first 100 available service providers, limit 1. And simply go to Cambium Networks product software cnHeat, and you just put in there your site request information, the normal site information that you download from the site, the template, and you provide your POS information. Just say identify my customers, and voila. As long as there's GIS data available, we'll provide the site for you with the 1-year subscription of Locate and the 500 IDs of Identify, the addresses of Identify. Lastly, if you don't want to do the marketing yourself, we have a partner, it's Market Broadband, and they'll also provide you a discount with this Identify promotion. So anything that's non-postage related and shipping and handling related, they'll give you 20% off up to $500. With that, I'd like to open up the webinar to any questions that people might have, and we'll hold for a few minutes for anyone that's interested. And if you have questions after the webinar, or you're seeing this as part of, you're playing this afterwards, you can always contact me and ask me a question. And that's daniel.sullivan@cambiumnetworks.com. So anything else, Keith, that you'd like to share or share? I really want to thank Keith Merryfield of Ionia Unlimited. And if you're searching for wireless internet up in the Ionia area, I strongly suggest that you contact both Keith and Adam Flood of Ionia Unlimited. They are really satisfying a need up there, and great things I've heard from what's been going on there. So I really want to endorse them. Anything else, Keith, you'd like to share with before you go?
No, not thinking so. Just thanks for having me participate with this here, and thanks for letting me beta this cnHeat. It's been really fun seeing it develop.
Well, good. Okay, here's a question here, and there's a couple questions here. Can you help me? Can you read the questions for me, Olivia, and then I'll answer them for you?
Sure. So the first question is your service point-to-point for the client, or do you have base station like multi-point-to-point to connect to your clients?
Yeah, that is a great question. So what we do is we provide the heat map in a point-to-multi-point fashion. I don't show it up here right at the moment. I can quickly bring up a slide and do that. Let's see if I can. And so if we quickly go to cnHeat.cambiumnetworks.com, you can look at a demonstration site. You just type in cnHeat, and the password is demo. And when you do that, it brings up 3 towers, and if we focus in on one of the towers, simply what we have here and I'll just bring up that, is here is coverage for a tower, and it's 1 foot SM height. And it shows you the heat map where you can derive coverage at 1 foot. So it's point to multi-point because you can place your SM anywhere, and this heat map is giving you the information to show you that. So if we drill into the neighborhood here, you can see this tower showing you exactly where you can install in certain houses, and other houses, because trees are in the way, don't have coverage. Next question, Olivia.
The next question asks, is there a way to tag homes using the antenna height option using the slider? So for instance, if you were to set the slider at 2 feet and tag all properties that can be covered using a certain color tag, and then could you move the slider to 5 feet and tag all those properties with a different color tag?
So we don't have a color tag. That's a great idea. I'm actually writing it right down right now for the future. So a color tag for identifying properties at different heights. So we just have the ability to see the different heights and to figure out the different levels there. Keith, you kind of went through something similar. It's not the same thing as having the slider. You had the raw height data overall. Do you want to share like how you were working without, there's a great idea the person had there, but how you were handling the 2 feet and 5 feet and with the process you used?
Yeah, that is a great idea, the tagging there. Because I was honestly just taking a lot of screenshots. I was setting the height to different levels, and then kind of like in that little image there with the color graph, I was able to identify with that, the required height for particular addresses there. And I was, able to adjust that from 15 to 35, 50, what have you. And it was honestly just hundreds and hundreds of screenshots to sort through. But it was having that height tool and with a little heat graph for the height did really help versus just having the option of 2 heights to choose from previously.
Okay, so just let me summarize it for the question. Great idea on the tag. How you handled it, and we could do what you would do with the slider today, which with what you do with the beta is you put it to a specific height. You were able to get a screenshot compared to the screenshot the other ways, and that allowed you to see a delta. And it's in a neighborhood, of course, because it would take hundreds of screenshots to do the whole thing, but and that seemed to work well for you to be able to make your proper install decisions. Is that right, Keith?
Right. Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, we're a small 2-man operation, so we weren't trying to cover an entire city at in a one go. We were kind of going neighborhood by neighborhood with the searches, so it worked well for us.
Okay. Next question, Olivia.
The next question is in regards to equipment bandwidth. They're asking about how many megabits per second the equipment bandwidth is.
So with the equipment bandwidth, we simply support radios of any type. And as far as the bandwidth goes, we don't actually indicate anything that's showing the bandwidth. On our heat maps, we do show the receive level. And so if you have your radio configured to a certain level, let's say, if you let me see this wrong. Let me show a picture here. Hold on. What we do is we show RSSI, and with the RSSI heat map, got this to come back. I'll zoom out here. You can configure it to have up to 6 different levels of RSSI for quickly. And you can see the different levels of RSSI that are here, and you can get an idea if there's no interference and you understand the throughput of your radio, the different RSSI levels, what your throughput will be for the end customer. One thing that we're going to add in the near future when we come out with the slider is you'll be able to move your mouse And as you mouse over each location, you'll see the RSSI. So if there's a certain RSSI level that is critical for you to provide certain plans, the tool will be able to show you what that RSSI level is. Okay, next question.
That looks like it's it for questions for now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And I really appreciate your time and help here with the webinar, Keith. And if anyone has further questions, you can always contact me directly again at daniel.sullivan@cambiumnetworks.com. Thanks, everybody, for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. So today's recording and presentation will be made available on the Cambium Network's YouTube channel and on the Cambium online community. Thank you for joining and have a good day.